In today's video, I'm going to show you how I recover old shell style handle scales. And I'll talk about all the tools that I use and what you'll need to do the job. And that video is coming right up, so stay tuned. Hello everybody, and thanks for coming back for another video. This is Dave. Glad you're with me out here in the shop today. And what I'm going to do today is show you how I put new wraps, covers on pocket knives like this. So a lot of times you get a pocket knife and it has something that looks like this on it, and it needs to be recovered because it's cracked or half of it's missing or chunks are missing out of it or whatever. So it needs to be recovered. And I've done a number of these, a countless number of these, and I thought I'd just share with you how I go about doing it. And I'm going to try to get it all on camera so you see exactly how I do it. And this is the knife I picked out. I'm getting low on these shell style scales that need new coverings, but I pulled this one out of the grab bag, and it was the only one I could find in there that needed handle coverings. There might be one or two more in there. But it's just like the one I did the other day, I think in my last video, possibly the grab bag video yesterday. And that was this one right here where I put a silver colored, and it's the exact same knife. The blades aren't in as good a shape. I haven't done anything to clean it up yet. This blade here has been very severely ground down, but I think it'll be a perfect example to show you. But right off the bat, if you have a knife such as this one right here, and this one I put holographic vinyl on it. These are a lot easier because there isn't anything to cut out on it. It's basically cut it to size and stick it. These are a little trickier because it has these imitation rivets stamped in, and then the little badge that has to be cut around. But it's still not that hard, and I'll show you exactly how I do that. So let me start off first with all the tools that you're going to need. Obviously, you're going to need the vinyl that you want to use. I like to use the self-adhesive, and I find it on Amazon, and it's relatively inexpensive. And then sometimes I find it at thrift stores. Here's a piece of peel and stick vinyl that I found at a thrift store for a couple of dollars. I haven't tried it yet, so it's black and white striped, but I think I'm going to try it today on this knife and see how it works out using the black color. But it's called orange peel. It has kind of an orange peel texture to it, so I think that'll be kind of nice. But I've used a number of different vinyls. Here's vinyl sheets that I bought on Amazon. This is actually a couple of different styles, but I've put them all together. So I have the glitter type in here and the holographic style that I bought, and all these sheets, and I just keep them all in this one envelope here so that they're all together. But I'm not going to use those today. Like I said, I'm going to try and use this vinyl I found at a thrift store. It's a brand new roll, never been used, and there's a lot on it. Here's another roll I bought on Amazon with the camouflage, like I used on this knife right here that I just did in the grab bag. And I really like the camouflage too, and I like to use it on the more fishing knives and the sportsman's knives and that kind of thing, but it would look good on a lot of different things. And it comes in a roll just like this. So tools. If you're doing just the plain style, like I said, like this, it doesn't need any cutouts at all. You can get by with just a pair of scissors and a pencil, and that's about it. You want to, very first thing is take your handle scales off. And if there's any wraps on them already, coverings on them, you want to take them off because you never know. It could look like this. And it could be very rusty underneath, in which case, before you get any vinyl to stick on it, obviously you're going to need to clean all that rust off and get it nice and clean. And then this is what I use, the final prep before I put the new vinyl on. I'll wipe it down with alcohol just to make sure there's no oils from my fingers or anything like that. That's going to prevent the adhesive from sticking very well to the surface, you know. So I always wipe it down with an alcohol pad, or you can use alcohol on a paper towel or whatever, and just make sure it's nice and clean before you apply the new vinyl. To take the scales off, I use this right here. 95% of the time it works. It's just a very small screwdriver that I ground down and shaped, and it seems to work very well like that. Occasionally you'll have to use something a little bit pointer. If it's a really, really small, tiny knife that has very tiny tabs, you might have to use something like a needle or something, a heavy-duty needle, to get under it first and get it started, and then you can use this, something like this. But very important, something like this, a small screwdriver, to bend those tabs up. If the tabs do happen to break off when you bend them up, which they will do, it's very thin metal, and so they sometimes will break off. I have in my repair videos playlist, there's a video where I showed how I repair broke off tabs, so you can check that out if you need to see that. Like I said, scissors to cut your vinyl. And then in the case today, with this style handle, you're going to need some kind of a hole punch. So I made one years ago right here out of a piece of steel that I hardened. And I just drilled a hole in it and shaped it like that to make a little small hole punch. And this one works perfect for these little rivets right here. But then I found this tool right here, and it's like an automatic center punch. It's spring loaded. You can adjust the tension on it right here, plus and minus. And it came with a very nice, it came with a variety of tips and stamps and things that you can use, but it has this very small hole punch, which is about the same size as the one I made. So it works, this works pretty well. That's what I used on these last couple of knives I've done, and it worked out pretty good. And then also you're going to want a razor blade, or maybe like an X-Acto knife set such as this, to cut out around the badge, the shield on the knife. And that could easily be done with just a razor blade too, like I said. But that's what you'll need basically to get the job done. So I'm going to reposition the camera, get set up here, and we'll go ahead and start making some handle covers. Yeah, I've never used this before, but it feels pretty sticky. I think it's going to work good. Okay, first things first, get these scales off. There we go. I think these are going to be okay without breaking off. Oh, that looks like Wrigley's gum wrapper. Along with the dust bunnies. And this is where if it's all dinged up anywhere, you want to go ahead and do that. This one looks like it has a little bit of deformity right here in the scale, but I'm not going to worry about it. And we don't have any rust really to remove. These scales are in pretty good shape. So what I do is I start off with one of the straight edges of the vinyl. If you don't have one, just make one with a ruler. Get a nice, good straight edge. And then in this case here, that little bit of extra paper sticking out makes it a lot easier to peel. But I'm going to trim off a little bit of it. And get it flush for this part. And then what I do is I'll just take my scale and a pencil. I'm not sure if I mentioned you need a pencil too, or something like that. And then what I do is I start with my flat edge right over here, my straight edge, and hopefully this is showing up on camera. I set the scale down and then I pull it until it just catches very lightly, and then I eyeball it and line it up so it's nice and straight along that edge right there, like that. And then I take my pencil and I kind of mark out the shape, trying to hold it from moving it around. There we go. And then I make sure I'm still nice and straight. And then by eye, I mark right here on each side where I want it to end, where I want to cut it off at. And I'm going on the inside of this ridge right here, right along that inside edge. I'm making a little bit of a mark right here. And then from there, take your straight edge and line it up with those two arrows and mark it. And then another thing too, like, and this is another thing I just kind of judge by eye too, is how much to leave hanging over. These are very narrow scales. These aren't very wide. So I try to make it to where there's enough overhang to where you get enough area for it to stick really well, but where it doesn't overlap a whole lot, because you don't want to have to come back and trim it later. For my length cutoff, I just take my scissors and cut it like that. And then I'm just gonna, like I said, eyeball up kind of a little bit over the line. It might be like 1/4 of an inch, something like that. I'll have a little bit of excess here, so I kind of follow along the line there and trim a little bit of that off, and that should be about perfect. This is the more complicated of the two because it has the badge. But what I'm going to try and do, not sure if it's going to work on this vinyl, I'm going to press down really hard and kind of rock it back and forth without bending the metal or anything like that. I'm just going like that, marking it, and we'll see. It left a really nice impression where the pinhole is here. I can make out the badge right there, and I can just barely make out that pinhole. Yeah, I can just barely make it out. So what I'll do is I'll mark it there and there. And then right in the middle of where the badge goes, I'm just going to put a little plus sign right there. And then the next step is to pop out those rivet holes. So I'll put that there. And there's that one. And these are removable, interchangeable tips that just magnetic hold in there with a magnet. And there's that one, and there's my 2 rivet holes. And then at this point you can kind of stick it on there and see if you got it right. That's looking pretty good right there. And now where my shield is, I'm going to just take my X-Acto knife, and in between where it goes, I'm just going to cut a little slit in it. Okay, and then we'll get that out of the way. I'm going to take my alcohol pad here. I'm going to wipe down the inside real good. Look at that dirt that came off. And then the outside, flip it over and do the outside. Yeah, got a lot of dirt off. And then just holding it by the bolster, I'll let it dry. It dries real fast, it's alcohol. Okay, and then let's see how hard this stuff. Some of these are really hard to peel the backing off of. There we go. Okay, and then to apply it, I usually start just at one end like this, line it up, line up that pinhole, and then I just hold the very end of it and then line up this other rivet hole right there like that. There's where we're at so far. And then I just run all the way down right here, the middle, and then work my way to the edges so that there isn't any air bubbles underneath it. And then I have cut notches in these before where it makes the bends for these serpentine style, but I found that if you just start in the middle, bend it over, press it down real good, and then do this end right here, you have a little wrinkle here, but it's not seen. And then you don't have to cut those little V notches in it like these factory ones did. Where's that factory one? I don't know, I might have thrown it away already. But anyway, then just flip it over. There again, do the middle first, and then work your way, go out on the end and down, and then this end, and then see we've got a little crease right there. That's where a V notch would be. But like I said, if it's a good vinyl and it sticks really well, it doesn't matter. You don't have to cut those little notches in it, you know. And so basically, now it's just take an X-Acto knife and cut out around the badge right here. So let me do the other one real quick. Here's my straight edge. And I'll show you how fast this really goes. I'll just, not to waste material, I'll start up here. Grab my pencil. I'm gonna mark it. That's good enough. And then I'm gonna mark it here. And then mark it right here. Take my straight edge. Like so. Make sure I'm still rolling. Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure. Okay, there we have it. Turn off a little bit of this excess right here, like so. Line it back up. That looks pretty good right there. That looks good there. And then right over where those rivets are, I'm pressing really hard right there to make an impression in the vinyl. And we'll see if that shows up on camera. The impressions I just made. You can see one there and one right there. And then you don't have to, but you can go over and mark them a little bit better with a marker or a pencil or whatever. And then I'm going to get my little cut pad here and my hole punch and get it over the hole pretty centered and take it out. And then that one, take it out. All right. And then I'll just reuse this pad here. Wipe it off really good. And then let's see, it goes this way. So this is my left side right here. I'm left-handed, but actually I'm ambidextrous. And we get our peel our backing off. And I know this is the left side. So, okay. And then we just take it and line our pinhole up right here. Like that. And I'll hold that real tight. And then I can kind of maneuver it a little bit to get this one lined up. Like so. Put it down. Like I said, start in the middle. Squeeze it down real tight. And there we have it. And that's what it looks like. And here's another little trick too. I've done in the past for vinyls that don't seem to want to stick very well. I'll take some of this narrow masking tape and just take a little piece of that. And that just gives you a little extra security. Pull this down so it's not sticking out to where it can be seen. And then that little piece of tape is just a little extra security in case you're not sure if it's going to stick really well over time. And if your knife needs quite a bit of cleanup, you want to do that before you put the scales back on, because once they're back on, you know, any wire wheel or fiber wheel or anything you use could damage your vinyl. So it's easier to just do it now. This one's in pretty good shape. It doesn't really have a lot of rust or corrosion or anything on it, so I think it's good to go. But, you know, like I said, if it's rusty or whatever, go ahead and knock all that off before you put them back on. And then putting these back on, I'll show you what I do a lot of times. So if these tabs are really tight, sometimes it takes a little bit of a tap like that to get them up flush. And then sticking them back on, I'll get it nice and lined up. Because if you see this notch right here, it's recessed. So you want that tap to go down in that recess a little bit first. So I'll give it a little light tap, just enough to get it down into that little recessed notch right there. And then I take my pliers, which I need to put some new heat shrink tubing over them. I basically just come in here like this, kind of at an angle, press down and squeeze. And that's it. It's on there. It's nice and tight. It's not loose at all. And so here's the final product. Yeah, I ended up doing this side twice. I did it the first time and I tried to cut that out and I butchered it up. So I had my wife cut it out and it's much nicer now. Thank you for that.
Welcome.
So yeah, it turned out really nice. I like this vinyl. I like that texture in it. So I'm definitely going to be using this vinyl some more. in the future. I wish I had some different colors other than just that black and white stripe, but yeah, I think I'm going to use it a lot in the future. That's the way I found. That's the quickest, simplest, and easiest for me anyway. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you have any suggestions or a different way you do it that might be better than mine, love to hear from you. And with that being said, I hope everybody's having a great day today. It's Veterans Day. So a shout out to all my fellow veterans. Have a great day. Hopefully you're going to barbecue or do something fun today. And that's a wrap, folks. This is Dave. See you in the next one.